Hello and welcome to Chapter 10, Section 7, Circles in the Coordinate Plane. The essential question is, what is the equation of a circle with center hk and radius r in the coordinate plane? What you will learn in this video is how to write and graph equations of circles. So first we got to start talking about what is the standard equation of a circle. The standard of equation of a circle with center hk and radius r is this equation: x minus h to the power of 2 plus y minus k to the power of 2 is equal to r squared. Okay, so what we're going to find out by moving this stuff around on the left on the graph is what we notice happens when we change the values of h, k, or r. So check this out. If I change the value of h to a positive number, it's going to move over to the right. And check this out. Check out the equation. We have whatever's in the parentheses with the h is what becomes with the number. So if x is 10, it moves all the way. And notice where the center of the circle is located, because remember, in our standard equation of a circle, h is part of the center of our circle. So the center of our circle is located at x value positive 4. So if you look at the center right there, it's at 4. And if it's negative, look at the equation. The equation now is x plus 2, even though the center is located at the negative side. That's negative 5 right there. So it becomes plus 5 inside the parentheses. So it's like our functions that we've seen before. Anything inside the parentheses is basically the opposite. And then let's go ahead and leave it at 0 again so that we can see what k does. Okay, and then k is our vertical shift, so k will move it up and down. Okay, so let's move it to 4, and then let's change h to negative 6. So check this out. This is the equation here. We have the center of our circle is located at negative 6, positive 4. And then we have one more variable to talk about. So when h changes, the center of the circle has a horizontal shift. So that moves left and right. And then when k changes, the center of the circle has a vertical shift. So up and down. And then the last one that we have is r. So r represents the radius. So we should expect the circle to get larger the bigger the r value is. And so see, the bigger the r, the bigger the circle. Okay, so that's going to be the radius, because the radius is growing. So here we have r is 4. So if we start from the center and we count out towards the edge of the circle, we should have 4 spaces. Okay, and we'll try that out in this example problem here. So we're going to write the equation of this circle here. So the first thing we want to do is we want to find the center, and we want to find the radius. So once we find the center, we can find the radius. So let's go ahead and do that. Where is the center of the circle? So remember that the center is the equal distance from the edge of the circle. So I can eyeball it, and I can say that the center of the circle is located at 0, 0. And I know that is true because if I go from 0, 0 to the edge of the circle in multiple different ways, I'm going to see that it takes the same amount of squares to get to the edge. So that is the center of the circle. So that center is located at 0, 0. Okay, we're going to move the radius over somewhere else. Okay, and then the radius is the line from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle. So how far is that? So you can pick literally any line from the center to the outside of the circle. Let's just use this one. And then we're going to go ahead and count how many squares it is. What's the distance? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so our radius, r, is equal to 3. All right, so now we have everything that we need to write an equation of a circle. So remember that the center is located at H, K. So those are going to be the values. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and type the equation of a circle that we have. So x minus h squared plus y minus k squared, square those on the outside, and then that's going to be equal to our radius squared. Okay, so here all we're going to do is just going to substitute. So our h is 0, our y is also, our k is also 0 because our center is at 0, 0, and the r is located at 3, so we have 3 squared. All right, so there we have our standard equation of a circle, but we want to simplify this as best as we can. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to erase the zeros because we don't need zeros, so y minus 0 is just y. And then I'm going to simplify this number on the right. So 3 squared, 3 to the power of 2 is just 9. So this is my equation of a circle. And you could have also erased the parentheses if you like, and leave it as x squared plus y squared equals 9. And that would have also been correct. All right, so let's do the same thing now, but there's no image here. It gives us the point and it gives us the radius. So it gives us our center. So our center is 0, comma, -9. So that is h and k. And then we have our radius, which is 4.2. All right, so the standard form equation, I'm just going to write it out here. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. Okay, and then I'm just going to substitute the values. So I'm going to x minus squared plus okay, so then x would be 0, and then this is -9, and then our radius is 4.2. All right, so I'm going to simplify before I go ahead and type it in. So let's get the 0 we don't have to write, so this is just x squared plus y, and then double negatives become a positive. So y plus 9 squared is equal to, and then I just need to figure out what 4.2 squared is, and I'm going to pull up my calculator for that. 4.2 raised to the power of 2, and I see I have 17.64. All right, so that is the equation of my circle. I'm going to type it in, x squared plus y plus 9 squared, and we can leave that, we want to leave it in standard form, which is this, fully simplified. Don't have to square it, so we're going to leave it like that, and that's going to be equal to 17.64, and then that would be the standard equation of a circle with the center 0, -9, and the radius 4.2. Alright, so next up we're gonna go ahead, before we go to the next example, we're gonna actually go over the distance formula, and let's recall how this actually works. So distance formula tells us the distance between 2 points on a coordinate graph. So if I have the points 3, -2, and the point 8, 5. Okay, I can substitute those values into the distance formula, but I'm going to call this one x1, this one y1. So it's my first point, my x and my y. This one is x2, this is y2. So then to find the distance, I'm going to substitute it into the distance formula. So I have the distance is equal to the square root of x2 minus x1, so x minus 3 squared. And this is going to look a lot like the equation of a circle, and that's the purpose, because the equation of a circle derives from the distance formula. So then we're going to have 5 minus y1, which is -2. And then you would solve this out to find the distance. So we're going to go ahead and do that for this next example here. So we have a regular point that's on the circle with center. This is the center of the circle. So I'm going to draw a rough sketch of this. So let's say something like that, right? It's not completely accurate. I'm going to go ahead and leave it there though, so that we can see if how accurate that was at the end. But so we have a point -5, 6 that's on the circle, and the center is located at -1, 3. So we're going to write a standard equation of a circle. So what we need is we need the center and we need the radius, right? So we have the center. The center we know is -1, +3. So that's our h, that's our k for the equation. What we don't have is the radius. I don't know how far this point in the center is from the outer, just because there's no way for me to count that as a regular number. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the distance formula. How far is this point -1, 3 away from the distance from -5, +6? Okay, so what we're going to do is to find the radius, let's write in green. To find the radius, I'm going to use the distance formula. So I'm going to do x1 minus x2 in that parentheses and y2 minus y1 in that parentheses. Okay, so I'm going to do -1 minus -5 is equal to 3 minus 6. Okay, so that's what I want to do. And to save us some time, all you're going to do is you're just going to substitute this into a calculator. So let's see if I could copy. No. All right, so if you just put it just how it is without the r and the equal, so if you just do square root of -1 minus a -5, if you put that like that, it'll automatically calculate it as a positive. You can type it in as +5, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave it like that. Plus 3 minus 6. It's not big enough. There we go. Squared. Okay, so then that's the equation. So then I get the answer as 5. So my distance, my r, my radius is 5. So now I can write the equation of my circle. So then in parentheses, I have x minus h, so minus a -1 squared plus parentheses y minus 3. That's from our center squared. And then I'm going to set that equal to my radius squared, which is 5 squared. Okay, and then all I have to do before I submit is I have to simplify. So negative becomes positive. Everything else stays. And then 5 squared, 5 to the power of 2 is 25. And that is correct. All right, and then we can see that the circle is I was pretty close. I mean, I was a little bit off on the right side of the circle, but when I first drew it. But that is how you write the standard equation of a circle given the center and a point on the circle. All right, and next we're going to be graphing a circle, but before we can do that, we're going to need to remember how to complete the square. So let's use this equation, this expression here, this quadratic expression, to complete the square. So in order to complete the square, remember that we have our standard form. Let's erase everything. Our standard form equation is ax squared plus bx plus c. So if we have x squared plus 6x, in order to complete the square, what I need to do is I need to take our b term, divide it by 2, and square it. All right, so to complete the square, I'm going to take the b term, which is before the x, so in this case it's a 6, so I'm going to add 6 over 2, and I know that looks very close to a b, but it's a 6, and then I'm going to square it. Right? So then this is x squared plus 6x, and then 6 divided by 2 is 3. If I square that, then my equation now with the complete square is x squared plus 6x plus 9. And now this can be factored into a perfect square binomial. Okay, and that's what we're going to need for this next one. Okay, so now we have the function, the equation, and we have to graph it. So here, there's a whole mess. So the first thing we got to do is we got to write this in a standard form equation of a circle. So I have x squared plus y squared minus 8x plus 4y minus 16 equals 0. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to kind of group everything together with what it belongs. That's why I color-coded everything. So I'm going to go ahead and commutative property, I'm going to move the x squared minus 8x together. And then I'm going to put the y squared next to the 4y. And then I want to also move the 16 over with the 0, but because they're on both sides of the equation, I have to do the opposite. So I'm going to add 16 to both sides right here. Okay, that's going to eliminate the 16 from this side and move it to the side on the right as a positive 16. Okay, and then for this one, I'm going to do 2 completing the squares. So I'm going to complete the square for the x values. So that would be, okay, so I have negative 8 over 2. Remember, it's b over 2 squared. And then for the y's, it's going to be positive 4 over 2 squared. Okay, so that's going to give me two new expressions. So I have x, and remember, we'll add those at the end. Okay, so first, let's write okay. So now our x part of the equation becomes x squared minus 8x, and then I'm going to simplify this. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 to the second power is 16. Okay, so I'm going to do this equals 16. And then when I do completing the square, I also have to add it to the other side. Otherwise, I'm changing the equation completely. So because I added a 16 here, I'm also going to add a 16 on the other side of the equation, just to keep it balanced. Okay, next, I'm going to do the y part of the equation. So y squared plus 4y. And then I'm going to complete the square. So this is going to give me the last number there. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 to the power of 2 is 4. So I'm going to add a 4. And because I added a 4 to the left side, I'm also going to add a 4 to the right side. Okay, so now, because these are perfect square trinomials, I can factor them because I want to write it as a binomial squared. So this first one, okay, so 16 is a perfect square, so that's 4. And then because this is a minus sign right there, that's also going to be a minus sign. So x minus 4 squared plus y. 4 is a perfect square, and because this one is positive, okay, we have plus. And then all those numbers on the right side, I'm just going to add together. And that's going to give me 36. 16 plus 16 is 32, plus 4 is 36. Okay, so I just have one more move to make. So in order to make this give me the center and the radius, I'm going to make a couple more changes. So this one here, this one is fine. Okay, so I'll know what h is. That's h, right? It's a positive 4. And then here, I'm going to just make a minor change just so we don't get confused. Remember that it's always the opposite of what's in there. So I'm going to change this to a y minus a negative 4. So that we know that that is k. And then the last one is I need to find the radius. The radius is not 36. The radius is whatever 36 is whatever number raised to the power of 2. So that's going to be 6. And this is r. Okay, so our center is positive 4, so it's the opposite of whatever's in the parentheses. Oh, there's a mistake. It's not a 4. It's a 2, because 2 is the perfect square of 4. So 2. Okay, so then our center is located at 4, negative 2. And the radius, we said, is 6. Okay, so that's how you find the center and the radius. And then once you find the center and the radius, you can move on to drawing the circle. So our radius is already plotted. So now I'm going to use the radius. Okay, so I'm going to just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know that a point needs to go there for sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Another one needs to go here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right on the edge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I have points of a circle that have to go right through those points right there. All right, so that can help me draw my circle. Okay, so I'm just gonna rough sketch it here. And these don't have to be very perfect, but as close as a circle as you could possibly get. And that is our circle there. All right, in this lesson, you should have learned about the standard equation of a circle. You should have learned how to write a standard equation of a circle and how to graph a standard equation of a circle. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please leave it in the comment section down below, and I will see you next time.